So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted that we have with us Manni Singh, who's the CEO at Bobble Digital. So, Manni, firstly, thanks for coming on board. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and Bobble to the audience and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Well, thank you for having me, Chris. So, yes, I'm Manni Singh. I'm the CEO of Bobble Digital. Bobble Digital has been going for, it'll be 6 years come June 2023. We're an award-winning agency. We're Best Digital Marketing Agency in Leeds for 2021 and 2022. And fingers crossed we get the trifecta. And our job is, we're a performance media agency. So we help our clients, whether they're B2B or B2C, to drive more quality inquiries or achieve more sales online by understanding who their customers are, how they sit within the market space against their competitors, and how they can maximize revenue and sales or leads or prospects for their businesses. Essentially, any business right now that's struggling to get leads or clients or sales, you should really be reaching out to us so we can put an effective free digital marketing strategy together for you to show you how you can go from not just A to B, but B to C, C to D, D to E, all the way down through the alphabet to help you grow and maximize revenue all the way through. We work with clients here in the UK, across Europe, and some clients internationally as well. So for full details, you can visit our website at www.bobbledigital.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. So again, as we spoke just before we started, it's great to see local businesses operating nationally and internationally, and wonderful. So Manni, if you maybe start off with talk a little bit about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one.
So since high school, sixth form, business studies and marketing was a subject I always did well in and something I always enjoyed. I did my degree in marketing and advertising management. I then did my master's in marketing. I also was the PR ambassador for Sainsbury's at the White Rose in Leeds for a short while during my master's period. And then marketing has always been, I wouldn't say it's a skill set I'm passionate about more than anything else. I then started working at an agency called Cara in Leeds, part of Dentsu Aegis Group, as a grad before moving over into marketing. And then, unfortunately, in 2017, my kidneys failed. I ended up on dialysis. I needed more flexibility with my lifestyle, what I was doing. I couldn't work full time. Going for dialysis 3 times a week as well at that time was difficult. So I could only work part time. So I left my role into marketing and set up Bobble Digital. Bobble being that it's my nickname. That's what people call me because of the bobble I have. And I wanted to put my ethics, my morals, my way of doing things, my expertise and experience and a bit of me into the company in terms of what people are doing. So when people are working with Bobble, they're essentially getting myself, no matter who they work with, within the company. So that started in 2017. You'll be happy to know that actually it was in March 2020, just before lockdown. I was lucky enough to get a transplant, but until that period, I was working Monday to Friday on the business and in the evenings going for dialysis, just to keep everything going. But it became my drive and focus during that period as well. I didn't expect it to be what it is now. You know, we're on course to, do over 1 million for the first time come 2023, which would be a great achievement for us as a business. We're looking to open up in the UAE as well this year and have a virtual office. It's been great, but essentially that's what got me into it. And it's been my passion and drive ever since. And now I'm just focused on building Bobble into a global brand in the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow. What a story! What a vision! That's quite incredible. That must have been difficult times for you from a health perspective and keeping things going. How did you keep your motivation going in those sort of difficult times?
It's quite interesting. I'm doing a talk tomorrow to a high school about motivation when things get tough. And I think in our darkest times, we think we've been buried. But if you look at it in a different way, you could see that you've been planted ready for growth. So it's how you view things. So at that time, it was a difficult period for me to leave a job that was paying me, considering my health elements. I remember I had a really nice Ford Mustang 5-liter GT that I'd bought 6 months prior to my kidneys failing. I sold it and used that money and put it to set up Bobble Digital. But Bobble Digital gave me the freedom, the flexibility to work for myself, to work at my own pace. And ever since I've had my transplant in March 2020, despite the impacts of the pandemic and lockdown and COVID, what happened as we started recovering from that is a lot of businesses realized they needed to go online and digital. So actually the aftermath and impact of that is that a lot of businesses realized they weren't digitally savvy or gathering customers digitally. So it's really helped our business propel, and having that energy back to really, and having that kidney function back and to go forward is really, really helped.
Amazing. Incredible. So from a business perspective, I guess primarily, obviously, your health being probably the biggest challenge you've had to face. What other challenges from a business perspective have you had to face over the last few years?
The biggest one is recruitment.
Yeah,
recruitment is very, very difficult in a post-pandemic world. We used to be, we didn't hire. We used to be 3 directors pre-pandemic, and then in 2019, I bought out 1 director, and in 2020, I bought out the other director and took the company my way just to protect it and spy them out so I didn't lose anything. And we then went from outsourcing to bringing everything in-house in terms of services. We went from a full service agency, just focused on 6 key services that we're good at. It's always good in business to focus on what you're really good and expert at. And that's where our growth has really come from. And across that time, as you could begin to grow and scale, recruitment is our biggest challenge. There's bigger agencies out there like Journey Further that tend to take up most of the talent. But that's great for Journey Further, and they're not a competitor to me. They're like, global level, and that's where I'd like to aspire to be in the next 5 to 10 years. But that has been the biggest linchpin because of flexible working, people being at home, offices. But we're in an industry where it's work hard, play hard. So when I'm looking to hire, I look for work ethic and initiative as the 2 top skills. I can train anyone to do this work that we do. Anything can be trained.
Yes.
I want to know that A, they have a passion and drive to want to work in this industry. B, they show strong work ethic, and C, they show initiative so they don't have to be spoon-fed. And recruitment has been very, very costly for us because I wouldn't like to say that our turnover has been great, but we've hired, and for whatever reason, we've had to try and replace as well. We have a good, strong core team that has been with us over the last 2 years. But to add into that in terms of quality is very, very difficult, especially because that level of skill and quality isn't out there. So what we've had to do to pivot is we are now just bringing in grads and that have those core skills. They want to work in agency life. They have that work ethic, and they have that level of initiative and drive. Then we're kind of training them through more grad schemes and elements like that, because that's literally what's happened because of how difficult it is to hire and how expensive it is to hire as well. Obviously, we're a small business at the end of the day. Yeah. We can't compete with the bigger agencies that tend to kind of take some of the good talent. So we have to either bring in contractors to freelance for us for a bit to help on short-term projects. But what that means is whilst we're doing that, we have to bring in grads and train them up. So recruitment and then the time it needs to train as we're trying to grow and expand when we have limited resources, it's probably the biggest challenge. The second biggest challenge is access to finance. Everything for Bobble Digital has always been self-funding. I always find that no matter where you go, there's so many barriers to access funding, finance, and elements like that. Just too much paperwork. And when you're trying to scale up and grow, you need things to be done very quickly and efficiently, where you can say, look, here's the information you need, do it for me. But like, fill all this form, that element, this online doc, show us this, now give us a created element of this. And it's like, I don't have a month to put that together, because in that month's time, I need to be from point C to D in terms of my business. So it slows things down. So the amount of admin paperwork to access elements like that are probably our 2 biggest stumbling blocks. But we're doing well organically in terms
Brilliant.
of
And it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, talk about recruitment. One of our propositions is traditional recruitment is we recruit on experience, but we sack on attitude. And so, let's, exactly as you say, let's focus on attitude, because you can train skills. You can always train skills. I totally get it. I think I really respect the fact that, there's a lot of training to be done with grads, but at least you've got, an open book, I think, so a blank canvas. And if you've got people that want to learn, and especially want to learn to do it your way, you're gonna get the right people. And funding, it's it's a real challenge because growth typically costs cash. I mean, it's very rare does a business actually generate cash through its growth. It typically needs to burn it before it produces it, and so it is. There is money out there, and I guess it's about tapping into different sources, but it is a lot more challenging as we grow. So thinking about business and what you've learned in business, what would you say are some of the biggest learnings you've had about business and growing businesses, would you say?
I could probably list off a number of things there because when I came into business, I was really good at the job that I did. You know, I at the previous agency, they'd be like, here's the brief, answer the brief, you're going to go pitch on this day.
Yeah.
I never knew about the mechanics of how the business run, from HR to finance to, legal elements to contracts to all these elements. So I guess the element for me is it's like you have to taking a step back from what you're passionate and love and what you're really good at to learn new skills in terms of being a CEO and running a business has probably been the biggest learning element to me, because I've opened my own eyes up to so many elements. Like I probably said, the biggest thing is like networking and meeting people. I guess that I didn't realize the value in like building relationships with that. And as good as I am at delivering it, I've learned so much about, finance, cash flow, legal, HR through to, IT elements, logistic, everything and anything that you get your hands on, the insurance and elements like that, pensions to health benefits. It's just your time gets consumed more now. My time gets consumed more now from actually, I can't remember the last time I set up an ad campaign. Yeah. And that kind of goes to show it. And that's what I love doing. But I do a lot of strategy. So it allows me to focus on the strategy and being at the face of things with clients, which is what clients want. Yes. They want to know my strategic mind is looking over these accounts, which is good. But I let the team go on and do it. And then I analyze an elements. But I can't remember the last time I created an ad or built a campaign or did some keyword research. So you get taken away from what you're comfortable with and get put into elements that you're not comfortable with. And that's where you truly get tested. So I've learned, the biggest thing is I've learned that I can do more than I can actually manage, and that actually I can be a lot more efficient than I originally thought, and that actually I can absorb and continue to learn new skills.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's sort of an obvious thing, but we often see in what we do that businesses are typically started by people that are good at what they do, but they're not necessarily good at or trained at growing a business at what they do, and the two different things, and then even going into running and growing a business and growing it are again two different things, and a different skill sets to learn and different knowledge to have. And Manny, you're probably aware we're a business coaching organisation, so we love coaching people. Who would be the best coaches you've ever had, whether it's business, sport, or life, and what would make them so?
I've had a few that have already helped me in Bubble. So I had Gareth Healy, who's ex-agency, who helped us when I put quite a bit of money into the business to grow it and take it to the next level, which was really, really useful. And some of the learnings from that day till today. When we started hiring, then I had to look at external people in terms of how to manage people. And being a Liverpool fan, I use the Klopp approach, where I'm the friend, but I'm not the best friend. So I kind of look at his managerial style in terms of managing, in terms of trying to learn elements from that. But now as we scale up, I'm working closely with a new company called Neds by Steve Sowden and Jamie Allen. And I'm hoping to bring them on as non-executive directors as we continue to grow and build an actual board for Bobble, because our financial year is January to December, and by the end of December this year, I want to make sure we turn over $1 million, and that's where when you make your first $1 million, then you got to make your second, and it's going up. So the growth and scale of the agency will really get to a level where I'm going to need external people who have been there and done it and know exactly what challenges and how much to come. So that level of experience will be really, really useful and helpful.
Brilliant. Wonderful. And along the way, have you picked up any favourite quotes or sayings that you find yourself using a lot?
My favorite one that I had, even at the time when I was in hospital on dialysis, before I even started the company, is coming through is, and I saw it was Tom Hanks did it on a podcast. It goes, "This too shall pass." So even when things are, and in businesses, you have your low moments and your high moments, and it's a constant heartbeat.
Yeah.
So you think that, so when things are difficult and hard and you can't see the end, just remember this too shall pass and focus on the elements you can control. But also when things are going great and you think you know all the answers and you think that you're untouchable, remember that too shall pass.
Yeah.
And more times will come with more challenges. I always feel like as a business owner, your job is problem solving.
Yeah.
More often than not. So I'd say this too shall pass. Just remember that when you're at the highest point, but also at your lowest point.
Yeah.
And I think at your lowest point, it lets you remember that, these dark times don't stay forever. Look at the pandemic, COVID, recession, losses of clients, for example. But also when you're doing really well, you've got a lot of new clients coming on board and things are great. Remember, it can go back to that element. So I think it keeps you humbled and grounded. To remember. And I think that's very, very key in business. It's good to be ambitious and driven. But there's a fine line between ego and confidence.
Brilliant note. It reminds me of an ex-Action Coach CEO that he once told me, and I remember him saying, "Chris, the job, exactly as you said, the job of a business owner is to solve problems. So if you don't like problems, probably not a good place to go is to get into business." Yeah. But what I've sort of taken from that moving forward, Manni, is that growth typically creates problems. So actually problems are a feature of growing often. And so it's almost like embracing the fact we've got another problem, because that means we're probably growing. A business that's static probably won't have many problems but it's not necessarily going anywhere. So it's almost like flipping on its head and saying, great, we're still working on the edge, we're still pushing because we've got problems. Not always an easy thing or a thing we want, but I guess it helps with that whole mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But you learn more from your failures than you do from success. And we have a lot of failures. I've had a lot of failures and a lot of things, not like I failed in business, but like a lot of mistakes I've made, a lot of things I would do differently. And you just put in better practices and realize, well, actually that didn't work. I didn't deal with that well. All right, now this is how I deal with it better next time.
Yeah, brilliant. And what would you say you've learned about yourself through your journey so far?
I guess I've kind of known that what's always kind of there. I feel like it's hard for me to put into specific words because I've been through a lot personally as well as through business in my life from such a young age as childhood with my kidney disease and ailment. So I guess the key thing I've learned about myself is I know where I want to go and want to achieve. And for a long time, I had a lot of uncertainty in life. Whereas now, finally, I have direction and purpose. And that all came from thankfully having a kidney transplant. But it also scares me at the same time because I know I haven't tapped my full potential yet. And considering what I'm doing already and knowing inside when I really assess myself that I could still be doing more is actually a scary notion because it's like, well, how far could I go? But then that's where the excitement and drive and the unknownness of what's going to come. And it could, you never know, it could go either way. Fingers crossed. Obviously, we hope with everything I'm doing, it keeps continuing to go. But some of the risks you take could take you back a few steps, or could take you ultimately to a step that you don't want to ever get back down to. So what I've learned about myself is my perseverance and knowing that I've got so much more to give, and that the more roadblocks you get through, the stronger you become.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So looking forward, what does the future look like for you guys? And what do you see as the main challenges you face, if any?
So I can tell you the immediate future. So the immediate future is we're moving offices from where we are to the department at the docks in Leeds, which is what used to be a Leeds casino. It's been renovated. We're going to be one of the first few tenants. That only launched in February. So we're one of the first few tenants. That's signed, sealed, delivered. And we move in May. I'm going back to Dubai to hopefully set up our UAE virtual arm there with the prospects and elements that are coming out of the UAE. So that's happening this year. Obviously, we have our target in terms of revenue to hit over 1 million and to double our team size as well in that period. But in the next 5 years, success to me is Bobble having a significantly bigger team, staff, and more international clients in the UK, operating out of Leeds, but an actual physical office in Dubai, a physical office in Europe, but also a physical office in the US as well. So that's where I'd like to see. So, we're Leeds and national base right now. We have good brand behind us, but what I'd hope to see over the next, 2-3 years is taking our revenue from, over 1 million then to 5 to 10. And then, over the next 5, 6, 7 years, however that takes, you don't know. But that's where we're going. We're going for, elements, but we're also launching new elements of our business, which is unique to us, with our business intelligence. We call it Bobble Insights, BI. So it works quite well. So we've got the agency, we're going to have our tech side, the business, our Bobble Insights elements, and we're going to have our education platform because we have our own podcast, Bobble Pod. We have our networking events, Bobble Bite Size, and we're doing a lot more training as well. We've realized a lot of companies are coming up to us, seeing us talk at exhibitions and say, can you explain GA4 to us? Can you explain SEO to us? So this month alone, we've got 3 to 4 training sessions booked out with individual companies that are actually clients, but we hope to onboard as clients. So there's an education arm we're going to launch this year, as well as the Bobble Insights arm as well. So essentially, it's going to be 3 parts of Bobble: the agency, the tech, and the education element. And that's going to grow and work under one specific arm.
Wonderful. What a great vision. Can't wait. It'd be great to swing by in the 12 months and just see how much of that I'm sure will have you've achieved, and then what next steps are. So Manni, obviously you've got really interesting background and experiences, and I'm keen to know what you'd say to anybody that was thinking of going into business right now.
Just take that first step. There's no right time to start a business. When I started, I thought of the idea in November 2016. I'd already gone down to part-time hours with my agency, and I was thinking, well, I had an expensive car to pay for as well at the time, and to go down to part-time hours from what I was earning was a big hit. So there's no right time to start, and I'd started and decided to take it really seriously when I'd got into some momentum and some stability with my dialysis element. So it was April where I went back into company and said, look, I'm not going to come back and work for you, mate. In fact, I'm going to go do my own thing. And it was a risk. It was a huge risk. And the risk at that time was much higher than what the risks I'm taking now. Because if it didn't work, I was leaving a permanent job, even though I was working part-time, but I had, a fixed income. I had some stability, security, job security coming in. It's always, you've got to look, all these fears play on you. But there's another famous quote where it's like, when it's the most scariest time to jump, that's when you should actually jump and take that leap of faith. So I always say, take the first step. Sometimes the first step, as what I did in November 2016, is actually come up with the Bobble Digital name, get the domain, and get the company registered with Companies House. So I knew I had to do something with this. Otherwise, I would be filing dormant accounts each year. And I used that as a catalyst, and then I got myself a basic office, and then I got some equipment, and then I put some basic money into it. And I know if you don't have any money, it's hard, but work on it in the extra times, take that first step towards it. And then before you know it, you'll be taking multiple steps to the point where you're like us right now, and you're running and you can't stop, even if you want to take a breather. So there's never a right time. Just take that first step, and just know there's a lot of free resources and support and information. Just connect with the right people, go to a few networking events, and before you know it, you'll meet some amazing people, and they'll guide you along the way.
Wonderful. Great advice. And if you were to start again, is there anything that you'd significantly do differently?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we did that we didn't do well. What I realized is that our business development approach wasn't great at the start. The networking events we were going to wasn't really given elements. 3 directors too many, in my opinion. We all had different opinions, and eventually when I took things myself, that's where the biggest growth went from. So there'd be a number of things, but predominantly in terms of our approach to, the market and how we go out to market and how we attract businesses and how we position ourselves would be completely different and change and take more risks back then than I did. I was a bit more conservative, which is why, we're 6 years now only hitting million, because we've changed our whole outlook. Back at the end of 2019, early 2020, we were obviously, given a step back from the pandemic, but in hindsight afterwards, it worked out better for us. So there are a lot of things I would do differently, which means I'll probably be at some of my goals already by now. But you only learn that by doing as well.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this that would love to be hitting 1 million at 6 years. So I think you've done pretty well, especially with the challenges that you face both professionally and personally. So
thank you.
Very, very well done. And finally, what would be the best advice if you could give an 18-year-old you, Manni, if you could go back in time and do so?
Oh, that's a different one. If I was 18, I'd say it's different, because when I was 18, it's a completely different landscape to where we are now. But the advice I would give is other people's opinions don't really matter. I said that my biggest advice is I saw this quote, I can't remember his name was, it goes, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Yes. And it's as broad as that is, and it might sound stupid, but the thing is, if you surround yourself around people that are ambitious, that want to grow, as opposed to want to go out and party and drink and elements, if you really want to be successful in life, you're going to have to make sacrifices you don't realize you want to do. But the reward is greater. For me, I know I'd rather work like a dog for 15 years for myself and retire than work as a slave for someone else for 30, 40 years of my life. That's just how I view the world. Does that make sense? So my advice to myself, if I was 18 or another 18-year-old boy, is actually have a good think about who you are, what you want to be, and have a look around the circle around you. Because I guarantee you, as you get older and older, your circle becomes smaller, personally and professionally. So the decisions you make at the age of 18 will drastically impact where you are at 21, 25, and 30 before you know it. And I wish if I had that time back, I'd look back and be like, oh, I wasted a lot of time doing things that had no value in terms of my educational element, no value in terms of monetary, but no value in terms of me personally being developed in terms of who I am now. Compared to who I was at 18. I mean, if you were to go and talk to my high school teacher and tell them what I'm doing now, they'd be absolutely surprised, compared to who I was and who I am now. And which is grateful, which is why I get asked to come now speak at universities and give those talks. So have a good look at yourself in terms of what you want to achieve in life, where you want to go. Have a look at I would say whoever supports you in that is a true friend, and whoever doesn't, because a lot of people are scared that they lose friends because of the success that they might have. Yeah. But you've got to focus on yourself. You have to be selfish at that age. Do what's best for you and your personal growth. And before you know it, you'll then create a lifestyle. You'll create a circle around you that suits your needs, but you also benefit them as much as you benefit from.
Brilliant. Very wise words, very wise words. I think it was Jim Rohn talked about the idea that we're the average income of the 5 people we most associate with. Yeah. So now, whether that's our friends or whether that's other people that we may or may not know through books or study, but that's the key thing, isn't it? It's who do we want to associate with to mold ourselves to be who we want to be. Well, Manni, that's been absolutely fascinating, and again, congratulations on everything you've achieved, because clearly, you've had to overcome some real key challenges. So just before we end, if you repeat, just what's the best way if somebody wanted to contact you or Bobble? What would be the easiest way to do so?
So the best way to do is connect with me on LinkedIn using Manni Singh, or searching for me on LinkedIn as CEO of Bobble Digital. You can go through the website and contact us through there at www.bobbledigital.com. Or you can email me directly at manpreet.singh@bobbledigital.com. Directly, that's the best way to contact me. If you want to learn more about my educational stuff, then you can follow a podcast, which is called Bobble Pod, which is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Or just follow our social pages on social media to get an update on elements of what we're doing and what's coming up next.
Wonderful. Well, once again, thanks so much for your time. And I'd say it'd be great to catch up again in maybe 12 months' time and see where we are.
No, thanks for having me, Chris. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Brilliant. Thank you.